Clean the Ministry. Lady Minister from Cicikovet. Written by SOT. By Leon Qafzezi. I am taking this opportunity to write this opinion, after the debate that was recently organized with the Minister of Culture and groups of artists, regarding two problems. That of merging the National Centre of Art and Culture and changing the name of the Theatre of Comedy, at the Experimental Theatre, Kuitem Spahavogli. National Centre of Art and Culture had a really short life. But as far as I noticed, it had no noticeable efficiency and was characterized by a kind of hermeticism instead of transparency in the reflection of the projects it sponsored. It was even more closed as an office than functional and communicating with artists. I agree with Minister Mirella Cambaro that he characterized it as mismanagement, conflict of interest, making mistakes, etc. This has generally characterized the way public funds in the Ministry of Culture have been managed in previous years, not just in a 2-year period. This centre did nothing but add one more link to this kind of mentality. While what we have proposed to undo is in the first place the change of mentality in the artistic community to open institutions in a transparent way. But the minister said, among other than this mismanagement, cost the state 56 million all per year. She talked about change of mind and transparency, but did not show who did this mismanagement, and who will be held criminally responsible for these 56 million leke wasted or misused. Both lead to the abyss of theft. How can the mentality of misusers of money and public funds change from these cowards, when they continue to hold director positions and have created a sick and corrupt family? There he finds directors who have been seasoned there with their mediocrity and have taken roots, since Mr. Rama, Mrs. Dade, Pango, Zafari, Bumci and now Cambaro were ministers. These untouchables have eaten bread well with the Berisha government and continue to taste with Rama. They often say, the ministers come and go, we stay here. Surprisingly, the projects with values brought by serious artists look at them with contempt, cynicism, adding the vanity expression, there is no money, do not tire in vain. Meanwhile, they give money for ghost shows that do not see the light of day. Only that the person is their man. Therefore, I do not understand Minister Cambaro. Because she fails to convince me how the corrupt mentality will change in the ministry she leads. Only with the finding of thefts, abuses, without concrete names. I do not see any anti-corruption strategy. These are not realized by merging centers or changing names, when the protagonists are the same. Maybe with the exception of a center mayor. I believe it will be difficult with that bunch of pets they have from behind by an MP who supports his arms yesterday and today. This is inevitable when people without meritocracy are put in the posts, CV, people who have not written an article in their life, not even a book. Have 3 masters, but who has seen it? When today everything is sold and bought since the deputy and the vote. What is the use of those masters after all? When the persons in question have no vision beyond a material gain in a dishonest way. This reminds me a little of the work of the writer N. Gogol, Dead Souls. Clean the ministry from the Cicikovs who trade with dead projects. Mrs. Minister. Only then will your institution have the necessary breathing and anti-values will go to the trash. To give way to true values. This will increase the prestige of your institution by turning it into a servant of artists and creators of all ages. Otherwise, we will only have facade painting to cover the next rust. The Experimental Theatre, which you are naming the prominent artist Kuitem Spahovogli, people's artist, despite being late in time and space, is an honor bestowed on his memory. Despite the fact that Kuitem Spahovogli has little to do with experimental theatre, including some elements of this theatre in the play Banya by V. Mayakovsky, or the creation of the youth group, because this type of theatre during the dictatorship was strictly prohibited. Why? Because experimental theatre is a current that encompasses a number of theatrical styles and dates back to 1900. But this term has changed over time by accepting or assimilating many forms that have been considered by world critics as radical. From this type of theatre was born the avant-garde theatre. However, the experimental theatre presupposed something new in form and content. Behind him, the avant-garde theatre was, so to speak, the opposition of bourgeois theatre. This was distinguished by a new way of perceiving reality, its performance, because it mainly played with form, language and was especially quite active in relations with the audience of viewers. This change of title from comedy theatre to experimental theatre Kuitem Spahovogli sounds a bit more like a finding to change the old directorate and board. This inadvertently betrayed you. When you yourself rushed to say, the current board members and director are worried about being removed from their position. But this sounds a bit artificial and abusive. Because I think their relocation is not about changing the title, but about whether they have justified themselves with work or not, so there must be other professional, managerial criteria that keep them at work or move them. But apparently the ministry finds it easier to carry out shifts outside its institution than inside it. This is more evident. To talk today about experimental theatre, when we have a flood of all currents of world theatre. And not only Albanian, when theatrical scenes abound from a completely spontaneous conception in the choice of repertoire, based on vulgar scenes, those with erotic sense. Because these suck more spectators who fill the hall, sounds like an organized chaos. Where is the role of the ministry in this regard, to orient a theatre that serves education? The true values of world-famous authors, but even to stimulate the local dramaturgy that has gone towards extinction for the sake of this commercial theatre. Where is the professional criticism of the plays? I am not talking about the journalistic criticism that raises it to the sky. How loyal the director or the directors are. Finally, in a foreign drama, to the contemporary author. Do they distort him, his work, for the sake of a manipulated audience? No one controls the directorial qualities of the work. Today anyone can put on a drama, only to have graduated from the Academy of Arts. I do not ask the ministry to play the role of censor, do not misunderstand me, but it should orient playwrights, directors, artists, the public towards quality dramas, and not a theatre for theatre. Experimental theatre, that avant-gardes, off-Broadway, in the world had famous names like Tennessee Williams, Edward Albee, Judith Malina, Jack Gelber, in America, while in Europe names like Antoine, Bram, Stanislavski, Craig, Reinhard, Gessner, Meyerhold, Piscator, Brooke, etc. That, maybe we, without becoming skeptical, will one day have